Hey everyone, Greg Stilly here from Diverge Media. We're just about to kick off PPC rally for Chelsea Hillier in Dorchester. So in the meantime, I'm just going to leave up that screen until we get kicked off, and we'll get some footage here. All right, so still filling up here. I'm probably the worst person for this, but Dorchester at the park here. I think it's 2066 Dorchester Road. But basically where the complex is, just about to kick off. Crowds gathered in. And we'll provide coverage here as we get kicked off. In the meantime, just hang tight. Yes, you do. All right, so try to get behind the fray here. Apologize, everyone. Looks like I might have jumped the gun on going live here. Yeah, it looks like I might have jumped the gun on going live here. They're still setting up. So, unfortunately, you're going to have to hang tight. Hopefully, you enjoy the music. In the meantime, if anybody has any questions about any of my work, any stories that I've covered, feel free to drop a question in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer it before we go live here. Still got people coming in. I see Canadian flags coming up the way here, but people are still filling in. Probably a crowd of, that's tough to say, but probably 60, 70 plus people here right now. I think I jumped the gun.
What?
I think I jumped the gun.
Yeah, sorry, dude.
How long you thinking?
Maybe 5 minutes at most. We're going to see if we can fix this microphone, and if not...
The big boy voice comes
yeah,
early.
Yeah.
The show must go on.
Fresh Radio.
All right, so I'm just going to walk off here because if the music gets picked up here too much, it's likely that this video gets taken down before I get any chance to get traction on it. So copyright issues of doing stuff live is a real issue. So I'm going to step back here with the crickets at least, I guess.
Hey, whatever.
And for those that don't know, there's a few articles you can check out. But most recent coverage was Cole Squire, the People's Party of Canada, being refused entry to the debate. That article will be updated shortly. Has Brantford Chamber of Commerce got back to me. They cited a few reasons: showing up late. They said Cole Squire of the Brantford Brant for the People's Party of Canada didn't give the information needed, that he was going to basically not abide by the rules they said. But the one thing that stood out to me was that basically, so I kind of prodded a little bit and I asked the question on, we're in the midst of a fourth wave, as they say, then why aren't we doing virtual? And then he said, it's a quality thing. Okay, fair enough. He said, obviously, lots of quality outdoor events have taken place. Most recently, I was covering Justin Trudeau's campaign stop in Cambridge, Ontario. And so that was all outside, high quality equipment. So I asked, why couldn't it be held outside? And his answer was basically, why would we do that? We had a studio. So I think the takeaway I had was, the issue is that there's one party, they kind of knew the position they had. That shouldn't be a surprise. And I think personally, if we're in the midst of this fourth wave, and that's why you're going through all these hoops, like a test, like a rapid antibody test or proof of vaccination, on and on, mass social distance, why not just do the easier thing and hold it outside? So that's interesting. Look for the update on that article if you haven't checked it out yet, though. It's on our page. Or you can go to divergemedia.ca and check out that article there. Thanks, Linda. Yeah, we're making our way around. All right. So it looks like we're kicking off, but the mic's not working, so we're going to get as close as we can, and bear with us, please.
How many people found out about this event through our email list? Okay. How about on Facebook? Did anyone here see the flyers posted around the area? Okay, cool. So this is what it's about, right? You guys are here for a reason. You want to hear something different. And we've mentioned that, everything seems to be stacked against us these days. We've got massive censorship in the mainstream media and on social media as well. Big tech censorship is a real problem. And we have to adapt our campaign and tweak it to play a totally different game than the establishment political parties. And this is what will take them by complete surprise, because we are shaking it up and doing what we must do. All of our volunteers here tonight are doing everything they can to get this message out, because they all realize the importance of the moment that we're in and how crucial it is for our future, our collective well-being as Canadians. So on that note, we do actually have some alternative media out here tonight. We've got Diverge Media giving us a stream. So give a big round of applause for the alternative media. So that's about it for me, guys. You guys are here to hear the message. I'm going to introduce our guest speakers tonight. But if you guys are interested in what you see and you hear, we got signs, we got a barbecue going. We're going to feed y'all. But if you really want to get involved in our campaign, this is how you spread this word. We're going to give literature. We've got flyers and pamphlets. You guys can all take a stack of 10, 15 pieces of literature, and you can give them to your own friends and family directly, people that trust you to be the messenger for us, for our collective movement. So our first guest speaker tonight is Professor Bruce Pardy of Queen's University. He is a good friend of mine, and he's very supportive of our efforts, and he's very understanding of the moment we're on. So I'm going to turn it over to Bruce.
Can you guys hear me? Al's got a big booming voice. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. So, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to see all of you. Thank you for coming. The irony is that because you're here, you're not the ones that actually need to hear this kind of message. Okay? But we're in a really bad spot in this country. Right? And the future of this country is either you and your family, or the future is pretty grim. All right? So I want to talk to you tonight just a little bit about the law, and about vaccine passports and about freedom of speech. I want to start with this. There's a saying that law is downstream from politics, and politics is downstream from culture. And many of you may have wondered over the past 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, why things are getting worse and why lawyers haven't taken this kind of stuff to court and why courts haven't fixed it. You probably heard commentators who are mostly with us say vaccine passports unconstitutional, violation of the Charter of Rights. You know, bad stuff. I share those sentiments. I would like to think that vaccine passports are illegal, are unconstitutional, are breaches of the Charter of Rights. But I got an ugly message for you. It ain't necessarily so. For a whole host of reasons. Some of them are intricate and complicated, but some of them are pretty plain. Here's one. Over this last couple of years, say 16 months, the amount of success that anti-lockdown challenges have had, very small. The courts are not on our page. In fact, they more or less absorbed the message that this is the time of emergency. In fact, one judge recently, hearing a lockdown case, basically said, this is like a time of war. And it is reasonable for the government to curb your freedom and to expect your cooperation in order to deal with this crisis. And therefore, what might have otherwise been a violation of your freedoms, today is not. And that's the kind of backstop that we have. So here's what people sometimes erroneously think. They think, you know, the place is going to hell, but don't worry about it because the law will save us. That's unfortunately not so. Okay? Look at the Charter of Rights. It's written there in black and white. It seems to say certain kinds of things. And you think, well, government did this document says that's a violation of this, therefore we have a solution. I'm sorry, no, we don't. Because governments make laws and judges sit in courts and they're people. And people have beliefs and agendas and ideologies. And when the judges take the words in the document, whether it's the Constitution or whether it's the statute, they interpret those words and they decide what they mean. And under these recent circumstances, they have decided that they don't mean that you have a right that's been violated. The Charter of Rights sounds like a great document, but it has an Achilles heel. And the Achilles heel is its very first section. That section says that you have all these rights, but they are subject to reasonable limits as prescribed by law in a democratic society. And what courts have done over a period of time is go to section 1 and say, well, sure, your right could infringe, but this is a reasonable limit in these circumstances. And what they have often done over a period of time is to make sure that the administrative welfare state can continue to function. So, my message to you here is this. The law will not save us. So the realm that we're in is now politics, and culture. So it's up to us to do this. You can't just send a lawyer into court and make this all go away. It's not going to happen. Okay? It's in our hands. And in order to fix it, to have any shot of fixing it, we're going to need more people like Chelsea sitting in the House of Commons and doing the stuff we need to do. Right. This is boots on the ground time. It's pretty obvious, I think. We are now in the middle of a crisis, and the problem is that as the crisis gets worse, things just double down. These vaccine passports are a good example. They're supposed to be temporary, like income taxes. Exactly. Right? Income taxes was a temporary measure to support the war. I'm still waiting for the war to end. But once you get the kind of system in place for a vaccine passport, it is going to be here for good. And it's going to change and evolve so as to keep track of different kinds of things when the need arises in the public interest. And the public interest is the most dangerous concept of all because it can mean whatever the government wants it to mean. There's an interesting relationship between vaccine passports and freedom of speech. Yes? One's about your health, and one's about your expression. And those two things seem to be independent. And in some respects they are. But you'll note how closely the ideology lines up. You're not allowed to say certain things. And especially in this particular era, this particular moment, you're not allowed to say certain things about the subject that the vaccine passports are about. So, for example, if you're a doctor, the licensing authority in Ontario, the college, when I say college, I don't mean school, I mean the regulator, the one who says, yeah, you're allowed to practice. That organization has said to doctors, you are not allowed to post things or to say things about COVID, about the vaccines, about the lockdowns, unless what you say is in line with what we approve of. And if you do, we will take your license to practice medicine away. Take the passport away too. Right? So your livelihood is gone. And that's the same kind of threat that's happening now with the vaccine. More and more employers are making mandatory vaccines mandatory for their workers. And so a lot of people are now in a horribly tight spot because you have to support your family, but you are being coerced into taking a medication that you might not want to take. Now, of course, we believe in the marketplace. We believe in free enterprise. We believe in property rights. And one might make this argument. You might say, well, hold on. Employers are allowed to set their own policies. If you go to a corner store, for example, you might see a sign in the window. And that sign might say, no shoes, no shirt, no service. Okay. Well, the owner of that shop is setting their own rules about who's going to be let in. And so why wouldn't the owner of the shop be allowed to say, no jab, no entry? Well, in a way, okay. But in an actually free marketplace, what you get is you have some stores saying, no jabs for us, and other stores saying, that's okay, come on in. And you have them competing. That's the way it's supposed to work. So it's not a categorically bad thing for any business to say, we'd like vaccinated people in here. Okay? Here's the problem. The government is driving the bus. They're driving the agenda. They're driving the information. They're driving the means. And in fact, they're now pressing down on the pedal in terms of coercing businesses to do exactly this. So this is not just a case of property rights or free enterprise or competition. This is the reverse. This is government saying, you will do this, or you won't thrive in the economy that we control. Okay? So don't let those alternative arguments fool you. It's quite all right for somebody to say what happens in their spot, but it's not okay for the government to tell us all that this is the way it's going to be. And that's the spot we are in right now. Okay? So, law is downstream from politics. Politics is downstream from culture. It is the culture that we are losing. And in order to fix it, it's up to all of us individually to talk, to communicate, to stand up for what you think is right. Don't give in. Don't do what you don't want to do. There's going to be costs. But in any moment of crisis, it takes people who are willing to pay a price to do what they know is right and to get their society back to a place that they know it can be.
Amen.
I think that's enough for me. Let's hear from Chelsea Hillier.
All right, let's see if I can do this. Is that volume good?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. I mean, I think that this is just the most encouraging thing. Every time we do something like this, you guys show up, and it is unbelievable. I think it's encouraging for me. I hope it's really encouraging for you guys, because I know we've all felt so alone so often over the last 18 months. So, round of applause for you guys for coming out in Dorchester tonight. We're running into some problems, though, when we set these things up. It seems none of the municipal politicians want us in their parks. So this was a problem last week in St. Thomas, and it was a problem this evening in Dorchester. And there's really this amazing thing that's happening. We all know about the censorship that's happening on mainstream media. We know about the censorship that's happening on social media. We know this. But they're literally trying to censor us here right now. They do not want us being together. This could literally ruin the entire thing for them, you know? So yeah. This will ruin the entire thing for them, okay? It will. This is going to be what their downfall is. They've told us for 18 months that we can't be together, that we can't get together, that we can't talk, and we can't share ideas. Because if they let us do that, then they get to do whatever they want. And if we go ahead and do it anyway, then we win.
Yes.
All right? So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of encouraging news this evening. All right? We've been out door knocking all over the riding for the last week and a bit, and we've visited hundreds of homes. And, I think one of the most popular refrains that we've heard over the last 18 months for those of us in the freedom community and the freedom movement are like, what will it take for people to wake up? Why are they all still fast asleep? Of the hundreds of homes that we've visited, we have only been told to get lost like 3 times. Okay?
Yes.
Amazing. That is certainly not the message that you would expect if you listen to mainstream media. In fact, you know what happens when we go to people's homes? It's incredible. We show up with our faces free, okay? We don't wear masks when we're going outdoor knocking. And we show up on someone's step, we knock on their door, and they come to the door, and every single time we stick our hand out, and we shake their hands, and then we start talking. They literally never say, get out of here, where's your mask, what are you doing, are you trying to kill me? None of that. We are separating, this is what's happening. We are separating people from the herd when we go door knocking. And when people are separated from the herd, they have their minds back. And this is the power of the individual in society. And this is what is lost when we talk about the collective good. Okay? When we talk about the collective good, it's the collective loss of our minds. Okay? But when we talk about the individual, that is where our power is. Yes. And we're seeing it every single day, and it is amazing. So take heart. Those people that are out in the store with their faces covered and looking scared and doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, when you get them alone, they're not thinking that. They're thinking that all of this is nonsense. The number one thing that people say when we go to their door is, I am done with the mask nonsense and no vaccine passports. Across the board, okay? So when the media tells you and when the politicians tell you that this is what, that people want these mandates, that they want these vaccine passports, that they want the masks, they don't, okay? They are more like us than they are like they're telling us they are, okay? If that makes sense. So anyway, that's my encouraging news for today, and I want you guys all to take part in that and keep it in mind when you're going out and talking to people. As soon as you say PPC, no vaccine passports, mask free, back to normal, people light up. So many people still don't even know that we exist, okay? So that's what we have to do. We have to go out and spread the word that there is an alternative option to what we're being told, all right? And so go out and do that, and that's how we're gonna win this. And I think that we are truly going to win in Elgin, Middlesex, London. All right. All right. Now I'm going to do a little educational portion of my speech. Okay. Aside from people not wanting vaccine mandates or passports and them wanting masks to be gone, the other thing, the third thing that everyone says is, well, I don't want to split the vote. Okay? I don't want to split the vote, and we need Trudeau gone. So, of course, we all want Trudeau gone. Of course, we want him gone. That is the priority. But for you guys in Elgin, Middlesex, London, you want him gone. You only can control what happens here. We literally cannot. The way that our system is set up, you cannot control what happens anywhere else. So when you go out to vote, you're not voting for Justin Trudeau, you're not voting for Aaron O'Toole, you are voting for the person who is going to represent you best in this riding, okay? You have a Conservative member already. We already have a Conservative member here in Elgin, Middlesex, London. So if you go into it thinking, I don't want to split the vote, so I'm gonna vote for the exact same thing that we have right now, what is going to change? Literally nothing is going to change. Our esteemed member goes to Ottawa, gets the message, and then brings it back and implements it here in Elgin, Middlesex, London. When in reality, what is supposed to happen is she's supposed to be here, and she's supposed to take your message, you know, what the constituents of this riding want, and she takes that back to Ottawa and tells Ottawa what's going to happen in Elgin, Middlesex, London. She's not going to do that, okay? But I am. That is my number one priority, is to make sure that the people of Elgin, Middlesex, London have a voice in Ottawa. And if I'm elected your member, I will literally go to war every single day in Ottawa for you guys. Yeah. 2.0. So, listen, like Bruce said, it is up to us to change this. It is a cultural issue. It is a political issue. Let's start expecting more of our politicians. How about that, right? Yes. Our expectation of them is so low. It's as low as it can possibly be. So when they don't do anything for you, and when they implement these insane laws and mandates that are completely egregious and violate your lives, your liberties, your freedoms, everyone says, well, they're politicians. Well, they're politicians. No. Let's raise. They are your representative. Okay, that is what they do. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. It's what they don't do. So when people start talking about the vote splitting thing, tell them they've got a choice. Listen, the Liberals aren't going to win here. The NDP is not going to win here. The Greens are not going to win here. This is literally an election between myself and Karen Vecchia. Okay, there is no vote split with the Liberals here. So you have an opportunity to actually make your vote count and not just vote in the same old thing. Okay? So when people are talking to you about vote splitting, tell them that it is nonsense. It is literal nonsense. Okay? We need to change things here in Elgin, Middlesex, London, so that then we can spread the message to all the other ridings across the country that we can do things differently, that things can be done differently, that they should be done differently, and that politicians need to be held accountable. All politicians, municipal, provincial, and federal, all need to be held accountable. I think that's all for me tonight. I just want to say thank you again. This is amazing. We really have a huge opportunity here. So let's take it and let's do this. All right. Let's change the culture here, and then we'll go and spread it further afield all across the country.
So guys, now what we're gonna do, we've got food on, so if you want to go in 1 and 2s here and there to get food at the barbecue, go nuts. We're gonna do a Q&A now. We want, you want to have your voices heard. We want to know what you care about, what's on your mind about anything, and we are here to answer these questions. We're not going to dodge any answers. We're just going to give it to you straight. So we are all available now for your chat.
But they didn't want what? Oh yeah, no. Well, they told me that this pavilion was rented this weekend. And that we would be infringing on their right to enjoyment of this structure. So. And you know what? Listen, if it was rented and there were people here, we would have gone somewhere else. We would have just moved over. You know, that's how it is. It's a big park. Yeah, it's a big park. There's lots of space.
So actually, I'll just ask that if you do have a question, maybe just come up here and maybe form a little bit of a line. And then, yeah, guys, seriously, help yourself to the food. The barbecue's great. And there's water and stuff, too. So.
Thank you for being brave enough to come out here and peel this minefield. There's a Geneva Convention and international law that very clearly states that no one can be forced to be injected with any substance or to undergo any medical procedure that they do not voluntarily undergo. That's number one. With that is the straw man argument that the politicians are using needs to be burned, because there are drugs that are very effective, not just at curing COVID, but at preventing COVID. It binds the ACE2 receptors, things like ivermectin, things like budesonide, things like hydroxychloroquine, vitamin D3 levels above 55, get your blood tested. If you're above 55, you're going to be healthy. Zinc and so many other things. The FLCCC, led by Dr. Corey, internationally renowned frontline doctors who have successfully treated COVID around the world. Mexico in 1 week went from hospital overload just by the use of ivermectin down to below normal levels of hospitalization. So it can be done. India, certain parts of India the same thing. Certain parts of Africa, the same thing. We are being sold a bed of lies. There are drugs. This is a treatable disease, and when you treat it, the death rate is less than 0.5%. It's a fraction of what the annual flu is.
So you've raised. Try to answer your first question, because your first question is a really good question. A really good question.
Some people didn't hear the question.
All right, the first question is this: there are international protocols, conventions that say you can't make people take treatments they don't consent to. And in fact, that's what Canadian law says too. And in fact, we have a section of the Charter that guarantees the security of the person. Here's the problem. If the government enacted a law that said everybody will get vaccinated, and if you don't, we will fine you or throw you in prison. Okay? Now that would be a charter violation. And a judge would be very hard pressed not to say, no, now you've gone too far. But this is the way things are working now. Governments have become clever. They're not going to do it that way for that reason. Instead, they're doing indirectly what they can't do directly. So instead of requiring a vaccine, making it actually mandated, it's not. It's not compulsory. So what they're saying is this: no. Vaccines are voluntary. Now, you can't fly if you don't have one, and you can't go on a train, and you can't go to a ball game, and you have a job. Can't vote. Oh, but it's voluntary. It's up to you, right? So, voluntary choice and then consequences, and that gets them around the legal protection. Because now it's the individual operations that are deciding, no, you need a vaccine to come into the store. Okay? So this is one of the legal problems.
So where the government I see as being weak is that they have hidden and lied about the fact that this disease is treatable. That takes this disease out of pandemic mode immediately, and it becomes a treatable disease with a death rate below 0.5%.
Now you see
less than the flu.
You see where the connection is now between the medical and the freedom of speech.
Yep.
Right? You've got censorship, you've got propaganda, you've got basically control over what's being said and what's being described.
As a veterinarian, I am now unable to prescribe ivermectin without special permission. This is illegal. This is against all constitutions. Every doctor and every veterinarian, every medical profession who is licensed to treat and prescribe prescriptions has to have the option of using their knowledge, their experience, their training, and the medicines that are available to ensure health and life. If you take that away from us, we are helpless.
Yes.
And what they are doing is pushing a vaccine that does not work. It is 10% of the people who are fully vaccinated are in hospital on ventilators.
Yes, ma'am.
This is not a vaccine. It is a jab.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
that's true.
Can we just switch up the question?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great.
And the last part of that is burning this straw man idea that we have to prove that it is not a pandemic, that the government is hiding information and suppressing the truth in order to push this down our throat and to control us like China.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Now we're going to get to the next gentleman up first. Thank you very much.
Is CPC going to be allowed in the debates?
I believe at this time, no. Not at the federal level. And what we've been experiencing locally in local ridings, candidates have been barred from the debate halls because they are refusing to be vaccinated. Like we are getting invited to local debates, and it says only double vaccinated people can come into the building. So what does that say? That is how far they are going to silence our message. They're totally ignoring everything about us. We had 1,000 people this afternoon at the hospital in London.
Yes.
I didn't see it. Was anyone there? Anyone of you there? All right. Yeah, not much media at all. They just try and make us out like we don't exist. And when they do mention us, they just slander us and make the most rampacious accusations against us.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say they know that if this message gets out, that it is powerful and that people will be mobilized. You know, it's really that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
So that follows up with where I'm at. If they're able to keep you out, how much harder is it going to be for us to come up and actually vote on election day? If they mandate that, and like we know the gays and the liberals, right? And they've also implemented in with Plan B, still tool, right? Then how else can we get around that unless we educate everyone here to get out and vote as early as possible?
Okay.
If you wait.
So listen, okay, I'm glad that you brought this up. This is really, really important. Okay, so first of all, always a good idea to go out and vote early. It's always a good idea.
Vote early, vote up.
That's right. when the advance polls open, I encourage everyone to just get out and vote. It makes the most sense. Plus, we're going to need scrutineers on election day, okay?
Yeah.
So we need people to vote early so that we can go out and monitor the polling stations. But I will tell you guys this. This is another piece of encouraging news. Elgin Middlesex London has what I think is probably the best returning officer of any riding out there. She has done this for 18 election cycles, okay? She is phenomenal. And she, excuse my language, takes no crap, okay? So, yes. So she has promised me and said there will be no vaccine requirement at the polling station. Even Elections Canada, who are doing all of their hiring right now for people to be at the polls, there is no vaccine requirement for them either.
No Dominion servers.
Hold on. So one piece of good news, right? So this is a federal election, and the federal vaccine passport has not been done yet.
Yes.
So we're probably okay.
Yeah. That's right. It can't supersede, right? The provincial vax passport cannot supersede federal laws. Okay, so that's one. Two.
They played that game. Lord knows how many times. We think the same thing too.
Yeah.
But a lot of people get their mouth shut because they're thinking it's against each other rights.
It's gonna blow over.
It's gonna be fine because, like, listen, if the 1%ers can control the entire world economy, and we're in the 99. We just need to have 2% to show up and say no.
Yeah.
Where is everybody?
They're rising. They're rising.
You gotta help them get rid of their brain worm.
Amen.
No, we'll pay you to watch Netflix. So we got nurses who are on the front line who are not getting paid their hazard fees, right? They're getting told that they're going to actually get a 5% reduction in pay, okay? And then when they need their help, we only get 1,000 people show up in London. We had a little accident in London where something happened. And look at how many thousands of people showed up.
Yeah. But it's easy to show up for something that is easy, right? Of course, no one a family dying in a tragedy is an easy thing to get behind. No one can that can't be controversial, right?
What happens so with the other now? I can't talk publicly about this, but there's a lot of people who are died because of the vaccine. And I know if you're a doctor, if you're a nurse, you're going to lose your license if you open your mouth. But there's 21-year-old men that are having heart issues. They're not going to get the same type of life that they used to have. We can't talk about them. Well, we've seen the signs. People saying, hey, this is my son. I try to put this on social media. What happens? You get banned, right? They throw Donald Trump out front there and let him do what he says, and they ban him. So you've got to get the small guys like yourselves out there. Talk to your little friend circles on Facebook, all social media stuff. They won't ban a small guy, but you get enough of the little ants showing up, right? We remember the old movie Ants. You grasshoppers, right? You get enough of you guys talking, and we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So get your butts out there and start yapping.
Well, and you know what? Listen, yes, that's true. Okay, we'll round up the There is not another political campaign in this riding who is getting numbers like this out on a random night, okay? The guys, the candidates in the city of London had an event last week. They had 300 people out. Okay, like, I know that, of course, we want to see 10,000 people flood in here, you know? But, like, no one else is coming even close to showing up the way that we are.
Yes.
But you know, my biggest problem I have with all this stuff I've seen today in London was what? Just the PPC showed up. I'm sorry, guys, but just you guys showed up. What happened to the Liberals?
Well, what
happened to the NDP? What happened to the Conservative Party? Where are they when it comes to like standing behind the first line support stuff?
What?
They're not there.
Well, they're the problem.
That's what I'm saying.
They're causing the problem.
We gotta come right out there and say, listen, who's supporting you? Right? That's my 2 cents, right?
Thank you for coming out to our little town of Dorchester. Nice to finally meet you. I've been a PCer my whole life.
Yes.
Ever since I could vote. And I would always ask my dad, you know, who should I vote for? And it was always PC. But this year I really felt a shift that it's time to vote my conscience. I just feel very strongly about that this year. And so I appreciate having an opportunity to vote someone that's not, like, I called Karen Vecchio's office and I had 2 main issues that I was concerned about as a Christian. And it's the same as what liberals are standing for. And I'm just tired of that and want a change. And I appreciate you guys coming out and that we have freedoms and rights that I really think we need to start standing up for. So thank you.
Our pleasure. Yeah, I mean, thank you. I don't know why anyone would get into politics, truly, if they didn't want to talk to the people that live in their riding. I don't know why. You know, right? Maybe I'm insane. But, you know, I don't have all the answers. You know, not one single person has every answer. But, you know, all of us together, we can come up with a lot of really good answers, you know? And so, like, I learn from you guys, just like you hopefully learn from me. And that's why we invite people like Bruce out and people like Salim out, you know, because when we're together, and when we realize that, you know, everyone has a different experience and everyone has, you know, a different perspective, that's when we have the real good ideas, and that's how we win these things. So I don't know why any politician would run if they didn't want to actually talk to the people. It's incredibly rewarding.
And I know you all know this, but let's just call a spade a spade. The Conservatives are not a conservative party.
Exactly.
Right? They're a progressive party.
Yes, they are.
And if you look at the issue after issue on the positions that they've taken, they're just slightly over from the Liberals, so as to make it look different. But it's actually not. They're all over here together.
They are.
Right? So it's the really only 2 choices. It's one of them or it's Chelsea.
I don't have a question.
Okay.
Let's have a statement.
I'm going to face the audience.
Okay.
Today, I spent about 5 hours. I made up a letter. The final phrase was, stop the date, please. Post PPC. Yeah! I sent that letter out to everybody on my email list, and I text everybody on my phone. I had a few bad responses. But that's okay. It didn't bother me because I know I'm right. All of you do the same because look at how many each of us can reach. Thank you.
Let's just say this too. Listen, just realize the moment that you're in. If you succeed in electing her, that is the beginning of something real. You have to start somewhere, but that's a great place to start.
Yes.
It makes the whole thing viable. It makes this social movement viable. And it's very close. So don't think that you're getting nowhere. That's not true. You have a moment. You have opportunity. Let's grab it.
Yes.
Anyone else? I won't name names.
We want names.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the bottom of this. I'll tell you what happened. Here's what happened. So,
What she said.
yeah, she wants to know who told us we should not be here tonight. Okay, so several weeks ago, we had a very, very, very small group of people right here at this pavilion. They weren't happy with us. It was literally just like, it was one of our very first events. There were a handful of people there, okay? It was great nonetheless. But they weren't, I don't think they were pleased with us, just because, just because we didn't check in with them first, you know? The municipality of Dorchester, or Thames Centre. So anyway, when we put out this thing for tonight, I guess we got some emails yesterday. Now, we were out all day yesterday, so we didn't see them. So then when I woke up this morning, one of the first things I saw after the vaccine passport stuff was that some municipal politicians here had been trying to reach me, and they had put stuff up on Facebook, and they had put stuff up on Twitter, and they had messaged me on all the platforms and whatever. And they said, you know, basically, you can't do this. And right. Well, of course they're not going to come out here right now. You know, yeah.
They don't want to get
so this is what I said. I said, person X, I believe you and person Y are aware that during the writ period, during the election, you know, leading up to the election, there are rules in place that if you're doing political campaign activity, that you cannot be stopped from using space that is generally open, accessible, and free to use by the public.
Yes.
And the response was, oh yes, no, it's not. The problem is not the political event. The problem is that you're barbecuing. So anyway, I said, I had no idea. I had no idea this was a thing. I said, am I not allowed to barbecue in the park? Like, if I'm here with my kids, am I not allowed to do it? Oh, well, and you have a guest speaker. And if you have a guest speaker, then it has to have approval by the municipality. And I said, okay, I will call later today.
That's because I saw my name.
and then I didn't call because I was busy. And now we're here. So, you know, I don't want to have like a problematic, troubled relationship with anyone, you know, but they're putting us into a situation where literally anytime we go to have an event, it's like, I was on the phone with the city of St. Thomas last week for 2 hours right before our event was supposed to happen. And I got passed around and around and around and around until I finally got passed back to the very first person that I had spoken to, who then approved my transfer of $36. So anyway, I want to have a good relationship with these people. I do. I think that they're just people who think that they're doing the right thing, you know, but they're not doing the right thing, you know. And so every time we do something like this and we get numbers like this show up, we're showing them that they're not doing the right thing, you know. We're showing them that there is another way to go about things. Like, if they want $36 from me, I'll happily pay it, you know. But I am allowed to be here just like you guys are all allowed to be here free of charge. So, I think we're gonna run into this probably every time we try to do an event. And just so you guys know, it's not just here. The PPC candidate down in Lanark Leeds, Thousand Islands, which is out in Eastern Ontario, is having an event tonight in another small town, and they got the message today that they were not allowed to be in the park. So, that's.
Are they going anyway?
They are going anyway.
Yes.
You have to work around it, and I think we're making a pretty good showing here that we're good people, and that there are people in their communities that they represent who are not having their voices heard, and so we're here in this park so that you guys can have your voices heard, and so that you can show your politicians that you're here and you matter and that you're going to demand better, right? So
Yes. And they aren't stepping up.
that's right.
There's one thing I'd like to say that I've never heard anybody mention, but the fact that we have men and women who are veterans who have fought in the wars for our freedom, and they have seen buddies die. I wonder how they feel right now, knowing that our country is not in a situation where we have freedom to make a choice, and injecting something into our body that we may feel is very wrong for us. So I think we need to think about the men and women who have also died on our behalf to have the freedom. And even not to be able to be in a park. Like, seriously, what is happening?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, my lovely campaign manager is a veteran himself. My brother is also a veteran, so it's something that's very close to my heart. I still know a lot of people who are still in the military, and I've been hearing from people in the military for the last year and a half because what's being forced on us is being forced on them, but in an even more egregious way. Because of the structure of the military and the chain of command and how top down it is. These guys really have no choice. They can defect, literally go AWOL, and then be up on military charges. They can stay and get injected, or they can try to release, which is not the easiest thing to do. So anyway, it's devastating. I'm sure it's devastating for them to watch what's being done, but they're going through it too. So.
See, we're now in a pattern that we've seen before in history, other places, right? These things creep up on you, and you get the population in such a state that they don't recognize that they've traveled down the rabbit hole, and they're in a bad spot. People are beginning to accept the present state of things as normal, and once you cross that threshold, it's a long way back. So this is just underlining what we heard. It's a dark moment.
What are you looking
Do you have any connection with Rebel News?
Do I have any connection? I don't know. Chelsea.
I wonder why you don't, because they're out there talking about all this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. But instead of being a connection, I think it's. The question was, does the PPC have any connection with Rebel News?
No. Not in any.
Why shouldn't you have?
Well,
Aren't they with you?
Well, yes. We don't have a connection with them in terms of a real we are two completely separate entities, but we are on the same page.
Yes.
Oh well, that was
Are they behind you?
philosophically. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because I listen to them all the time, but I never heard anything about the party.
Huh.
So I just wonder why they're not promoting it.
Well, that's a great
Ask
question.
Ezra. In fact, I'm talking to Ezra about passports tomorrow. I'll ask Ezra then.
Yes.
Put that on Facebook, what his answer was.
What are you doing?
Gotta talk to you after.
Sure.
Why not now?
Chelsea, where's your next event?
That went on south of the border.
Port Stanley on Friday.
We're standing on Friday?
Yeah.
Do you have a list of all the events over the next
Counting of votes.
2 or 3 weeks?
The
Like, if you
headwind
had that, we can get the
you guys are facing going against the Liberals
Okay, I had heard about it, but then I couldn't find anything anywhere. guess the 2 months is how do you guarantee that the votes are going to be tallied properly so that because we're all going to take a leap of faith and we're going to go with PPC because we want to change. Is there anything that you guys do you have enough clout where you can get in there and make sure they're not screwed with the counting of the votes? Because that's a valid.
Yeah.
And especially with mail-in stuff, in the States, this ballot harvesting stuff is going on. Is that happening here?
Yeah. Honest answer, I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. I mean, I think Chelsea's answer that she gave previously is the best one, which is this is very much a riding by riding thing. So it's up to us to get people on our team in there to watch over things and to.
So are you allowed to stand close enough to see that the vote's going in and there's no?
I've never done it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So I had this conversation last night with Alex after we went door to door, and he was part of this last time, and his girlfriend one used to be helping the service street, and they actually have seen it. So it's not like in the U.S. where there's a Dominion voting machine. That I mean, if you look at Canada, it's the same amount of people in California. It's a completely different system. They put these things in a long time ago, but we here don't have that. It's the advantage of being not technologically advanced. They still do it by hand. Yeah.
Right. So when they are being counted by.
Yeah, you have invigilators from each party sort of watching.
Do you get when they're being counted? Do you get to have someone who's part of the PPC, Liberal,
I believe so.
PPC, all there when they're being counted?
I believe
that's
so.
the main thing. I just want to make sure, since we're going to start off small, we want to make sure everything's counted.
Absolutely.
It's just
Makes sense. Great pleasure.
The big one. We're going to try to employers being allowed to ask you to disclose your vaccine status. Because it's not against the Personal Health Information Privacy Act. We're now, I'm a government employee, and we got you must disclose by this date. If not, you must give a medical reason. If not, you must go to a re-education class and get antigen testing.
Right.
But how are they allowed to ask you that?
Right. Good question. So this is a bit of a complicated answer, right? So if you're a government employee, then is it a healthcare?
I'm a 911 dispatcher.
Okay. So I don't know if it would be FIPA or but there's two of them, right?
Yes, I know there's two of them. Yeah.
And so it's FIPA, the Freedom of Information, right? That's the actual prohibition, and that prohibition still probably applies. It's complicated, but the bottom line is, I think they're doing what they're not allowed to do.
Yeah, it doesn't even under the Personal Health Information Privacy Act, they're not allowed to ask us
that? They're not supposed to ask you that. No. But they're proceeding as though they are because there's an order. And the order may lack legal authority. Maybe.
So is the best answer to refuse to answer?
Best answer
or to accept I'll go to your education class?
Well, it depends upon your own principles. I mean, given the situation that we're in, my own inclination would be, as long as you don't give up your vaccine information, you might as well just go along with it.
Oh, I don't care. I'll go to your class.
Go to the class.
What paid for the antigen testing? The antigen testing, yeah, they have to pay for that.
The re-education.
But for the education, is that paid for?
Yeah, they would make us go to it, like any other
I heard for teachers it isn't.
We are everything that we do that way they cover if they make us go to that class.
I would just
but I'm thinking the stance is instead of declaring is just saying you don't get to ask me.
Right. And if you say I'm not answering the question, then they'll send you to the seminar or whatever it is.
Right.
Okay, whatever.
Okay, so then my second part is I didn't think they would be allowed to say you have to submit to COVID testing. How is that any different than you have to submit to HIV testing?
So the key in your workplace might be your union.
Yes.
Right? Your union should be all over this. Saying,
have you heard much feedback from the unions on where they're
it depends where the unions are. So public service unions have been good about this. The police unions have been good about this.
So I'm an OPS, Ontario Public Service.
I do not know.
Yeah.
But the academic unions have not been good.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Then you got a problem. Right? You can bring a thing called an allegation of the breach of the duty of fair representation. Unions have a duty to represent you, but they have a huge degree of discretion about when to do that. So it's a very hard thing to win.
I just wanted to say to everyone that last week I went to the polling station because I wanted to get a mail-in ballot. And when I walked in, they said to me, "Do you know who you want to vote for?" And I said, "Yes." They do not yet have those little things with the little dots next to the person's name, but you can go in there. They hand you the little piece of paper. You can write Chelsea's name down as long as you have your name and spelling right.
All right, everybody. Things are kind of wrapping up here. I know the audio is getting bad, and it's quiet here. So I'm going to close up the live. I'm hopefully going to pull a couple of recorded interviews to be releasing those over the next few days. But thank you for tuning in. If you could support our work, divergemedia.ca. We have merch. We take donations as well. We wouldn't be able to do this without help from people helping us travel. This is actually one of our shorter trips, but an hour each way to get out here. So if you can help any way you can, we appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. I'm Greg Stelly from Diverge Media.
Oh, wow.